right, what's happening? What's up? Hold out your glass because we're about to fill it up. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens podcast, a place where the conversations are always enlightening. Now, how many of you guys have heard of America's Stonehenge? Well, for those who haven't, you're going to learn about today and how it could possibly be the Axis Mundi of the world. And I'm here today with the honored guest, L.A. Marzulli. L.A., thank you for coming on today.
Nice to be here, Justin. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Which I've always, followed your work and your podcasts and stuff. And then when we met at that conference
Yes.
back a few months ago, I bought that 7 disc set, and I completely just nerded out on that for hours on end and got all kinds of good notes. But you had one specifically called the Axis Mundi on America's Stonehenge. Uh, Tell us how you come across this, and just give our listeners some background for that don't know much about the site itself.
Well, the site is a 4,000-year-old site in New Hampshire. It was a closed site. Now, this is all new information. I believe the site was abandoned, but they closed it. Who were they? So 4,000 years ago in New Hampshire, well, something else is going on here. And we're actually in some very interesting scientific research on the site. We've had a bone that was analyzed, and the information from that, the DNA came back. We've got it. Very interesting, but I won't tell you what it is yet because I can't. We're also doing carbon dating on the same bone. So this gets very interesting. But we believe because of one of the artifacts that was there, it's called the Bale Stone, and it weighs about 30 pounds, and on it is handwriting. Someone carved into the stone. But when they found it, they knew it looked like handwriting. No one could read it. No one had seen anything like it before. And so it lay in the museum for 11 years. Enter Professor Barry Fell from Harvard University, and he came out to the site and looked at it, and he said that looks like Iberian Punic, and I think I can decipher it. So he takes it back and he works it out, and it says to Baal of the Canaanites in dedication. They didn't know what they were looking at, with all due respect. They knew it was a Phoenician thing, but they knew nothing about the Nephilim. They knew nothing about the diaspora when Joshua and Caleb pushed the conquest of Canaan, and how the Nephilim tribes disperse, hence the word diaspora. They travel to different parts of the world. There's no doubt about that, although mainstream archaeologists refuse to look at it to their own detriment. So what we're looking at here is something that rewrites history as we know it, because the connectivity between America Stonehenge and other sites is mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling. So when the Stone family bought it, it was 115 acres or whatever. And Robert Stone looked at this thing and he read it. He was getting a haircut, and it was an article, Mystery Hill, and all this other stuff, and how they were going to sell it and put up a development. So he went there and he looked at it. He was just blown away by it. And we've got pictures from when, even before Robert Stone got there. The site was buried. The site was pretty much buried. So when Stone got there, what we now know as the sacrificial table, that was ground level. That was completely at ground level. So you didn't realize it was a table on legs. You had no idea of what you were looking at. There was,
Right.
like, for instance, the chamber that there's this a tube, a 6 foot tube that goes from a hidden chamber, and it comes out underneath where the table, the sacrificial table is. Well, no one knew about that. Everything was underground. So they began to excavate, and they went, "Oh my gosh, this thing's got legs." And they went further, and they found the chamber. There's an oracle tube which goes from this hidden chamber to underneath the temple, or underneath the table, and it was sealed on both ends with round stones, sealed. Then there's something else. There's there's so when they got there, they knew something was up with the site, but they weren't sure. And around the site were these standing stones, but everything was overgrown and you really couldn't see it. But there was something going on, and they went, maybe this is some sort of an observatory. So they would stand in the center of their site, and they would look. This is the first clue at the summer solstice sunset, and they went that sunrise. Let me get a little prop here. So here's the stone. That sunset comes down like this, right over the stone. I mean, give me a break. So once they got to that, they realized, okay, something's up, and they began to go back and let me get out of mail here so we don't get bothered. So annoying. So they began to go and and find other standing stones, and to their amazement, there were a lot of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they were all over the place. So what was interesting here is they they began to clear the forest so you could see these other standing stones: winter solstice, summer solstice, the equinoxes, lunar stuff. But they didn't understand what they were looking at. So when Kelsey Stone, this is how I discovered it. Kelsey or discovered about them. So America,
Kelsey's his son, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
it's Kelsey. Kelsey's his son. So Kelsey is a college student, 23-year-old college student, and he's on Google Earth, and he says to himself, "What happens if I extend the line from my site?" And let me get this out here. Yeah,
Oh, do you got like a little map or picture of it?
yeah, I think so.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Oh, well, I got it right behind me then. I didn't know that. I looked over that. I got that copy right back here.
see that's all you need. Where is it? Where is it? America Stonehenge 101. I cut.
Yeah.
I
Because
cut it
honestly,
off.
that blew my mind. I was watching that video and, looking at the altar and how it was bell shaped, and even
Yeah,
that it even had a tilt to it and
yes,
looks
to
like
catch the blood.
channels for the blood to,
Yeah,
to run down into a collection
yeah,
chamber.
it's exactly
And then
where.
the standing stones, and just, I mean, that as that video just progressed, it just kept, just when I thought I couldn't be blown away even more, it just kept hitting me.
So here's the deal: when you take this is the line right here. So you go out on the line. This is Kelsey Stone. He's on Google Earth, and he's saying, "What happens if I go out and I draw a line from the center of my site out to the standing stone?" So he does that, and it's pretty cool. And now he's over the Atlantic Ocean. He goes by Newfoundland, and he continues. He finds himself going through Ireland, and then he goes, "Well, let's continue the line." He's in southern England. He's saying, "I wonder how close I am to Stonehenge." Here's the payoff. That line goes directly through
Boom. Right through
both
the center.
yeah, right in the center. And you can't. What we're looking at is spherical trigonometry. We're looking at which is way beyond my pay grade.
You're
Spherical
right.
spherical trigonometry, because the Earth is a globe. It's not flat. And if it is flat for all your flat earthers, then quit squawking at us and go out and get the pictures. I mean, what's so hard about that? We've got millions of pictures of the Earth from satellites and the moon and everything else. Just show us one. Just go out there and don't quote me scripture. I don't want to hear that. Okay, I already know what you're going to do. You're taking allegory and trying to make a flat Earth. And I know some of you out there are getting really ticked off right now. But take the LA Marzulli Flat Earth Challenge. Pool your money together. Rent a jet. You guys can do this. There are millionaires out there who believe in the flat earth. Fine. Okay? Rent the jet and go in any direction and bring back the pictures of the earth, where it falls off. Just do that. The mountain of ice which circles the deal. I mean, guys, you're smoking something, trust me. And it makes Christians look like absolute morons, if you want to know the truth. And I know I'm ticking off a lot of people, but you can't show me one picture. You can't bring back one picture. I can show you a gazillion of them. So it's all a conspiracy. And also, look, there was a guy who wrote about this in Prophecy Watchers, right? The magazine. He worked at NASA on a computer when they were feeding. That computer was from the Mars, not the Mars, but the lunar mission. They're transmitting the pictures. He's getting the pictures as they're coming off. He's getting them. I mean, he's not making this up. And there's the Earth, little cute globe, not a flat thing. It's a sphere. So, but I digress. So when you're there and that line splits the two trilithons at Stonehenge, England, you are looking at spherical trigonometry, which you can only do from the air, who was the prince of the power of the air. But once they got that, and I saw that rendition on Scott Walter's show, America Unearthed, and I was blown away. I contacted them the next day, and they were gracious enough to let me include that in the book on the Trail of the Nephilim, which is available by going to lamarzulli.net. That's lamarzulli.net, and get your copy today. So, but I was able to do that. It just blew me away. And they gave me the information. Kelsey gave me the JPEGs, which was incredible, and that made it into the book. Once Kelsey and the Stone family, not Sly and the Family Stone, but the Stone family, I'm dating myself here. I saw them at Woodstock. They were flipping amazing. They were amazing. Just, you know, this is before Sly couldn't speak, with too many drugs. They were incredible. I mean, the whole place was dancing. It was unbelievable. But once again, I'm down that rabbit trail. Stick to the
Oh, I,
subject.
was- I was definitely born in the wrong era. All the good music was. I mean, we had some good music, you know what I mean, but it just not like that.
Not like the '60s, no, in the early
No.
'70s. That was a whole different deal. So once they figured out that these standing stones seemed to align deliberately to other sites, and this is where we get the Axis Mundi, they began to explore. Well, when you go to another standing stone, you wind up in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. How does that work? Another standing stone, you wind up in Teotihuacan, Mexico, Machu Picchu, the pyramids out on the Canary Islands, the Great Pyramid of Giza, hence the name, the Axis Mundi, and Fritz Zimmermann was the one who named it that, the center of the world. So we're there, and I'm at the museum, and I'm talking to Kelsey Stone about the Bale Stone. So what is this? And he's actually, I'm walking in the museum, and Kelsey's going, "This is the 39-day stone." And oh, really? What's that? Well, this is 39 days, and it's from when the solstice to Beltane. What? To Baal of the Canaanites? Like what? And I'm not still not tracking with him. Well, what's this? This is where we have the stones with writing on them. Well, what's this one? Well, this one was translated by Harvard professor Barry Fell, who then,
Was that 75?
yeah,
1975?
Bob, please, it's the car here, Bob. Well, they know it's illegal aliens here. I don't know what we're going to do here. I didn't vote for this. So anyway, it's unbelievable. Don't get me going. So I go, what's it say? To Baal of the Canaanites in dedication. I mean, I about fell over. And they didn't know the connection, the Nephilim connection, because the Canaanites are a Nephilim tribe.
Yeah. The
And this,
Venetians were known for their sailing throughout history.
exactly. So that rewrites history as we know it. But I was just there about 2 weeks ago. Literally 2 weeks ago, I was there.
This is good timing then.
Yeah, it is. And we're in the center area once again. Now it's the center of a site, but it's elevated, so you can really see the standing stones. And I'm looking at this, going, there's the 39-day stone, and it's toppled. It's on the ground. All the other stones are up, but the 39-day stone is on the ground. The Baal stone, to Baal of the Canaanites in dedication, is buried in a collapsed chamber. I'm going somewhere with this. Okay. So the Baal stone is on the ground. All the other stones are standing, but the Baal stone is on the ground. The stone that says to Baal in dedication is buried in a collapsed chamber. And when you go and you look at the 39-day stone in the museum, 39 days from the spring equinox to Beltane, to Beltane. Beltane is a Celtic festival, what became a Celtic festival. It's to Baal. And then you've got the two stones which are plugging the oracle chamber. In my opinion, the site was closed down, but we don't know by whom. We don't know by whom. However, there's biblical precedence for when the Lord shows up, and I'll just give you the biblical precedence right now. Abraham gets tapped out. The two angels come with the pre-incarnate Christ. Sarah's laughing. This time next year, you're going to be pregnant. Just wait, Sarah. And Chuck Missler used to say that somehow the Lord regenerated them, worked the clock backwards. They had to. Sarah's 90 years old, and she's going to get
Right.
pregnant. That's not going to happen. Sarah and Abraham go to Egypt, and Pharaoh wants her in his harem? No, that's not going to happen either. Something very, very strange is going on here. Extremely strange. He regenerated them. He reversed their ages, which is that in itself is a 3-hour conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And I got that from Chuck Missler. So the Lord is there, the two angels and are there, and the Lord says, I'm going to make you a great nation. So now for the first time in history, we now know the bloodline of the Messiah. Out of you all the nations will be blessed, that's the prophecy. And we are. All the nations are blessed because of Jesus. But thousands of years ago, Abraham didn't know. He just knew, I'm just Abe. I mean, I got called out of Ur. Here I am with Sarah. We're barren. Nothing's going on here. Not so fast, Abraham. Not so fast. Next year, Sarah's going to be pregnant. Really cool. But then the Lord says to Abraham something that's really incredible. It's pregnant with meaning. And he says, you're going to be a great nation, but you're going to go down to Egypt for 400 years until the sin of the Amorites comes into its fullness. The Amorites is an overarching title
Umbrella term, yeah.
for Nephilim tribes, is what we're looking at here, for Nephilim tribes. And that in itself is mind boggling. So the Lord knows that it's 400 years, and he allows the sin of the Amorites, which is creating hybrids, to come into its fullness. And then he acts. And so on that battlefield, 400 years later, when Joshua and Caleb come up into the promised land, it is the seed war manifesting in the Levant. Because on one side, you've got the 12 tribes of Israel. On the other side, you've got all these different Nephilim tribes, and they go at it. And guess who wins? So that sets up a precedent where the Lord will allow things to happen for a certain period of time, and then he acts. Conjecture on my part. Was the site closed by angels? No. Was it closed by those who constructed it? We don't know. But what I do find interesting is that it was, in my opinion, the site was closed. The site was deliberately shut down for
And
something. Buried. And we get the same thing happening in Göbekli Tepe.
Yes.
Same exact thing happening. It's everywhere. It's the same deal. You just scratch your head and what am I looking at? In Corral, which is the oldest city in the Americas. It's down in Peru. I've been there like 3 or 4 times, maybe more. I don't know. Maybe 5 or 6 times. I think that's more like it. Because I went with Brian.
If you didn't mind to endorse beer, LA, you could be the Del Sakis man.
Exactly. There you go.
The most interesting man in the world.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But we were down there, and the site was abandoned, just the whole site. And we're looking at pyramids, step pyramids, level. I mean, it's huge. It's a huge site in the middle of nowhere. Now there's
It's just decaying, ain't it? Is that the one you're talking about? It was the sides were real decayed and falling off like somebody just walked away in your videos.
this is Mondo and I were there. It's in, if you've done a deep dive and you have, it's in Lost Civilizations. It's in number seven.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lost Civilizations. And we're there, and there's this level plaza. There's three pyramids. There's something that looks very much like a kiva, which is what we see in New Mexico at Chaco Canyon. It's almost identical. The site reminds me in some ways of Teotihuacan. This is what we hear from the docents who were there. Well, we don't know who built this, but they just abandoned the site. And then they add, we think it was due to climate change. It's like, oh my God. Seriously, guys, it's climate change. Seriously. And we hear this over and
All the methane from their camels and
that it's unbelievable. So the theory I am going with is a supernatural one, which is why it will never get legs in mainstream archaeology till the second coming. And then the Lord will make it right. Is it possible that, and let me read you something here. I did a show on this last week, 3 years among the Comanches.
oh yeah.
Someone sent this to me, and here's the kicker. All right.
What's happening? What's up? Hold out your glass because we're about to fill it up. You know, I always said that I would never bow to any corporate sponsor. But hey, rest assured, this ain't corporate. Kevlar Joes Coffee Company, been a sponsor of my show, The Dig Bible Podcast. They've come on board with the Prometheus lens. I'm here to tell you guys, if you like good, bold, smooth finish coffee, check these guys out. I'm a personal customer, been that way for quite some time now. The breakfast blend, real good for the morning. But then you got, for your hardcore guys that like their coffee with a little bit of legs, they have the Flightline Joe. I'm telling you, ladies, don't drink this because it's going to put hair on your chest. But no, guys, if you want to help sponsor the show, help keep the lights on, go on over to KevlarJoes.com, check out their stuff, and see what blend you like. He's got several to choose from.
This is the legend of the Comanches, as he related it. So, the Rolling Thunder and this guy, Nelson Lee. Nelson Lee's a captive with the Comanches. They find themselves in this valley where these huge. I'll read it to you because it's just amazing. Let me see. Finally, we descended into a ravine, walled on either side by rugged cliffs, which led us a day's ride to the southwest, where we emerged into a valley about 4 miles wide, 30 long. It was surrounded on all sides by very high mountains, exceedingly bleak and barren. There was not a tree or a bush, even a blade of grass to be discovered over the entire surface of the valley. It was covered to the average depth of 15 feet, as near as I could judge, with broken pumice stone, a substance precisely similar to the lava of Vesuvius, Mount Vesuvius, the volcano. That it was a result of volcanic eruptions, there was no possible doubt, inasmuch as numerous tracks down which it had flowed from the mountain tops were distinctly visible. The Rolling Thunder, in order to convince me of the correctness of the belief, universal throughout the Comanche nation, conducted me to the western side of the strange valley, where I saw with infinite astonishment and surprise the dilapidated ruins of a large town. In the midst of the falling walls of a great number of buildings, which in some remote age, beyond doubt, had lined spacious streets, was what appeared to have been a church or some very large building, like a cathedral. Its walls of cut stone 2 feet thick, and in some places 15 feet high, including a space measuring 200 feet in length and perhaps 100 in width. The inner surface of the walls in many places was adorned with elaborate carved work, evidently the labor of a master hand, and at the eastern end was a massive stone platform, which seemed to have been used as a stage or pulpit. And my surprise at beholding so unexpectedly these evidences of a civilization in that wild region, I turned to Rolling Thunder and asked if he could explain it. This is the legend of the Comanches as he related it. Innumerable moons ago, so a long time ago, a race of white men, 10 feet high, and far more rich and powerful than any white people now living, here inhabited a large range of country, extending from the rising to the setting sun. Their fortifications crown the summits of the mountains, protecting their populous cities situated in the intervening valleys. They excelled every other nation which has flourished, either before or since, in all manner of cunning handicraft, were brave and warlike, ruling over the land they had wrested from its ancient possessors with a high and haughty hand. Compared with them, the pale faces of the present day were as pygmies, both in art and in arms. They drove the Indians from their homes, putting them to the sword, and occupying the valleys in which their fathers had dwelt before since the world began. At length, in the height of their power and glory, when they remembered justice and mercy no more, and became proud and lifted up, the Great Spirit descended from above, sweeping them with fire and deluge from the face of the earth. The mounds we had seen on the tablelands were the remnants of their fortresses, and the crumbling ruins that surrounded us, all that remained of a mighty city. We're trying to find the location of this place, if it exists. I believe it does. Does it exist in modernity? Probably not, but you never know. Just never
Yeah.
know. There's another precedent for the destruction like this, Sodom and Gomorrah. There's a third precedent for this. When the Lord tells Jonah, go to Nineveh and preach so I don't destroy it, and he does, but he goes the wrong way. I'm not going to do this. He gets
He
somebody
tries to
else.
run away, don't he?
Yeah. So we all know the story. And Jonah finally gets to Nineveh and he preaches and they repent. So the Lord doesn't destroy it. But he destroys Sodom and Gomorrah until the sin of the Amorites comes in. Then he brings Joshua and Caleb and the boys. Is it possible that what we're looking at in all these sites, because I mean, it's more than one example, Justin. I
We
just gave
got
you, I just gave you
Atlantis,
exactly.
Genesis 6. Yeah, I mean,
It
I'm a
seems to
firm
be
believer prophecy repeats itself throughout history.
so with America Stonehenge. Was the site destroyed by angels and covered up? I have no answer to that. That's conjecture. But in my opinion, the site was abandoned but deliberately closed. And I find it, we've got the Baal stone, the 39-day stone on the ground. We've got the Baal stone to Baal of the Canaanites buried in the collapse chamber. And we've got the oracle tube sealed up on both ends with a stone. And then the whole site is buried. You tell me.
And with at DVD, when I was listening to it, I think it was maybe Kelsey, but he was talking about the correlations with the 39 and a half year lunar cycle. Is that right?
It's
Or
an 18 and a half year lunar cycle.
18 and a half lunar cycle. And you see this throughout the world, all these megalith sites. Could you touch on that a little bit for those that are not
Yeah,
familiar
I
with
can.
that cycle?
So let's say we go back 4,000 years and you and I touch down on America Stonehenge and we see the moon come up here and then it sets over here. Next night it comes up here, but it sets way out of the picture. And so we create a center point. We put a stake and a rock in the ground, and then where we see the moon come up, we put a stake in the ground. Where we see the moon set, we put a stake in the ground. We do this every night for 30 days. Then a rainstorm comes in, and we can't see the moon, so we got to start all over. Here's the rub: you can do the math. First of all, we don't know, Justin in LA, we have no idea that it is an 18 and a half year lunar cycle. We don't know that. So the question is, when we just start to come in and look at this thing, we don't know whether we're in year 2, year 8, year 12, year 1. We have no idea. We're putting stakes on the ground and we're taking buffalo hide and trying to crunch the data. How do you crunch the data? Who sits up and goes, wait a minute, stake number 82, right? Stake number 82 Looks like we've been there before. It looks just like the pattern for Stake 82, Stakes 82. Who's going to figure that out? We're looking at thousands of stakes. Just do the math. 18 and a half years times two. Just do the math. Just do the
Did you
math.
want that job?
No, no. There's no buffalo hide, deer hide. There's nothing that shows that Native Americans knew about this. And yet the lie is perpetrated that they knew all about this. Europeans didn't know about it until, not recently, but not that long ago, really, when you think about it. So
The span of history.
yeah, I mean, the there's a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world. I mean, there's no doubt about that, and it surrounds us. It's all around us, literally all around us. But they'll call someone like me, yes, I'm a pseudo archaeologist because I don't have a degree. Well, okay, but I've been out in the field a whole lot, and a lot of these guys just sit in the library all day. That's
You got
fine.
common sense and experience. I'll take that any day over a piece of paper.
And I'm out in the field. I mean, we're saying you show me something, show me somewhere in the record that Native Americans knew about the 18 and a half year lunar cycle. I mean, that would be in the oral tradition, but it's not there. And I'm not trying to disparage Native Americans because we just heard from a Native American, Nelson Lee wrote him in his book, right? Rolling Thunder, Chief Rolling Thunder, who talks about there's a race of 10 footers that inhabit, and his account is exactly what we hear from many of the tribes. But archaeologists, modern day archaeologists, for the most part, refuse to acknowledge that this ever happened. So they pick and choose which oral traditions they're going to believe. So really, who's the pseudo archaeologist? Who really is the racist? I'm going by this is the guy's oral tradition. This is what Rolling Thunder says. I believe every flipping word of it. I really do. The guy
But it
told
doesn't matter. What blows my mind is like it doesn't matter if it's the Indians. It doesn't matter if it's the Celts. It doesn't matter if it's the Hebrews. Every single culture throughout history has a similar story and paradigm that whether they call them the star people,
star people, right?
angels,
Right.
Nephilim, whatever, fallen angels, there is something quote unquote extraterrestrial, not of this world, that comes and gives this knowledge to humanity and builds these great things. I mean, it's across the board.
It's across the board, and it appears everywhere. And the reason why that mainstream archaeologists don't like it and will disparage my work and other people's work like Chris Zimmerman, um, Brian Forrester, is because it goes against their prevailing paradigm because they're all a bunch of Darwinists. I mean, they are. They don't believe in anything supernatural. And what we're pointing to, including Chief Joseph Riverwind, is the Tiana War Chief. We're pointing to a supernatural paradigm, where these sites that are there, something happens, and then they're shut down. I mean, Gobekli Tepe was under all this soil. I mean, how does that work? I mean, it takes, a lot of time to bury these things. You know, America Stonehenge, completely overgrown. The sacrificial tables buried in dirt. They didn't know what they just thought it was another slab because all the cuts were filled in with dirt. They didn't know what they were looking at. And then somebody started going, once Robert Stone bought it, they bought an archaeologist and they began to uncover all this stuff. They were just blown away, completely blown away. And so was I. Like I said, I was just there. I believe the site was shut down. Um, I really do. I don't believe it was abandoned. I believe it was shut down by the good guys. Now, that's conjecture. I cannot prove it, but that's conjecture based on all the other sites that we talked about. Here's another example Teotihuacan. So, it's the largest pyramid in the world. It's not as high as Giza, but the base is wider than Giza, and there's this whole subterranean deal underneath it, which connects the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. We don't know what they called it. Huge plaza, and it resembles Corral down in Peru. Corral is abandoned due to climate change. They have no idea why it was abandoned. Quit speculating. You don't even know who the people call themselves. They have no idea. So just like Teotihuacan, they call them, these are the Teotihuacanos. They make up the name. Just like all the mounds in Ohio. These were the Hopewell. These were the Adena. You don't know what they call themselves. You just make up names. And we're supposed to believe this? You
And,
don't know. You don't know.
and the
Stop.
local Indians will
Stop.
say, "We did not build
Yeah,
this."
just
No,
just
yes, you did. You just don't
yeah.
remember.
You don't remember. Shut up. If that's not intellectual, if that's not racism, I don't know what is. Seriously. If that's not, overt racism, and this is the work of Cyrus Thomas, about 100 years ago almost, said, oh, no, Native Americans built all this stuff. They just forgot that they had done so. Oh, really? When does that happen? So I guess, Chief Rolling Thunder was just making this up, right? 10-footers, pale face, the whole deal. Nonsense. So what do we believe? What do we believe? It's just like my workout on Catalina Island. We find a 9-footer, and I got to show you that. Hold on. It's here in this one. Oh,
And what was crazy about that find was it was pictured in a museum for all to see. People seen it every day, and then you see it and having it, analyzed and looked at, and then tell them what it is. Then the picture gets taken down and disappears.
yeah. And we'll show you that in just a second.
But they even speculated with that America's Stonehenge. I heard in the video that they believed that everything lined up with the constellation Draco. That they
No,
believed the North Star was
he didn't,
Draco during that time.
and he didn't. When we found that, I mean, in the film, I just go, "You've got to be kidding me!" I mean, it's always the dragon. It's always the dragon. This is
Like
the
you say,
picture.
who's the prince of the power of the air?
Yep. This is the picture I discovered in the museum archives. It was not on the wall. Nobody knew about it. It was in a museum box that looks like this on the bottom. That's a museum box right there. See the way everything's cataloged? It's in a
Hmm.
vault. That box is in a vault. Public ain't going to look at it. Nobody's ever going to see the light of day of these pictures. But I see it because I had access to it and I discovered the picture. I had the picture analyzed. The picture shows a 9-footer. That's what it is. That rewrites history. So Richard Shaw and I go back, and we go back to the museum, and we walk in, and this is what we see.
They
What's wrong with?
photoshopped him out.
Yeah, they photoshopped it out.
What great links to golly.
Yeah,
I thought they just took it down. They actually photoshopped
there
it.
it is. There it is, right there. That's inside the museum.
Trust the science, people.
Well, I mean that's right. I mean, but I'm the pseudo archaeologist. Really? So let me get this straight. I mean, and I asked the curator, it wasn't John Borragina anymore, it was a new curator. I said, why did you do this? She said, oh, I didn't do anything. I was just told to put this picture up. I just did what I was told to do. So she's innocent. She never saw the original picture. Why would you do that? If you were trying to get people to your museum, right, why wouldn't you take my work? Because I've already done it for you. You could call me up and I would let you use those pictures. Come see the giant skeleton that was found on Catalina. The line, the line would be around the block, but they're not going to do that. But we see this over and over and over again, where artifacts go missing, skulls go missing. It's just the same thing. Oh, that 28-pound axe head, that was ceremonial. Well, if you don't know the people's names or what they call themselves, how can you possibly tell us that this object is ceremonial? You're basically lying to us. I hate to use that word, but that's what you're doing. You're making up a story which has no basis in fact. Quit calling us. We're actually out in the field looking at stuff. It's like the DNA evidence is a perfect example.
Yeah, that ties everything together. What you're saying, it's no longer a postulation.
No, well, it's no longer a hypothesis in the sense
Yeah,
that how many DNA samples do we have to do? Brian Forrester had two guys come down from Gaia TV, and they took 100 samples. They found nuclear DNA, and the nuclear DNA did not match anything in the gen banks. It was an unknown primate. So bully for those guys. Nobody cares. We came down and we showed a preponderance of DNA which came from the Middle East, the Levant in particular, and Eastern Europe. Oh, it's all contaminated, blah, 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 blah. Well, our challenge was, why don't you guys go down and, you show us the samples and let's see where this is. Let's see what you come up with. Of course, they don't do that. And, I'm not like there are carbon 14 labs that won't touch my work. If I send a sample, will you please carbon 14 dating? It doesn't care about my belief or my worldview. It's going to spit back data. Oh no, you're a pseudoscientist. You're a pseudo archaeologist, so we won't take your money. We're not going to allow you to do carbon 14 dating. That's called censorship. That's
yeah,
called discrimination. That's what it is.
blackballing.
Yeah, that's what it is. Because I have a different paradigm. Why? Because I'm uncovering the secret history, which has been deliberately obfuscated to people of the world. That DNA showed a direct connection to the Levant, which supports our hypothesis that when Joshua and Caleb, according to the biblical prophetic narrative, according to the Bible, okay, when Joshua and Caleb came into the promised land, there was and began to push back these Nephilim tribes, there was a diaspora, and they fled all over the world, and we see the remnants of it all through the Mediterranean Sea, into Spain, into Portugal, into France, into the UK, and finally over here. I mean, it's like you can trace it. It's the Amorites. It's just like until the sin of the Amorites comes into its fullness. And you say this, those of us who believe in the biblical narrative, the dots are totally connected. Those
Hmm.
who are in academia who have a Darwinian paradigm, oh no, it's all contaminated. You people are smoking something. It's like, and we're not talking what you're smoking, but
Yeah.
it's like it's unbelievable. When you go into Israel and you see the dolmen fields that are there, these huge stones, megalithic stones that are or Sacsayhuaman. Let me just show you that. Sacsayhuaman, where the stones are cut with absolute precision. The precision is beyond anything. I mean, just like you sit there with your jaw on the ground. It's always good to go to the index. Yeah, let me go to the index here. Okay, so here you go. So this is I gotta go to the index because I never find it. Hold on. Dun, 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 dun. The Paracas history. That's not it. Hold on, let me. Oh, it will find it. So when you go to, okay, let's just go to Ollantaytambo, page 200. This illustrates my point. So when you go to some place like this, and you see Sacsayhuaman, let me show it to you. When you see this, and look at the corner there. Look at this stone. Look at the way it's fitted together. Look at that. Look at this. Look at look at this.
And
And
you can clearly see where modern man added to it. You know,
oh, you can see that, and I'll show you
that's
that in
what
a
these
second.
ancient civilizations did. I mean, they found these sites and just
Yeah,
built on top of them.
you're trying to tell me people did that? And you want to know how big it is? I'll show you how big it is. That's how big it is. Yeah. Some of these stones weigh up to 100,000 tons. Not 80, 100,000. I'll show you one that right here, right next to Ron Moorhead, right there. That's the one.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe 80,000 tons, something like that.
I've
And
even seen pictures where it looks like they've been heated and just
yeah,
wrapped.
yeah,
Like they're
and wrap.
yeah.
It's something we're looking at a technology that we don't possess today, and you can't cut andesite stone with a copper chisel. You can't do it. And we demonstrate it in our newest film, Out of Place Artifacts, which is number 8 in the Amatrill of the Nephilim. So, yeah, I mean, what we're looking at is a hidden history that's been deliberately obfuscated from the people of the world. And, folks, we've been talking about this, Justin, but, your listeners can go and just get instant gratification by going to our streaming site, streaming at lamarzulli.net, streaming like a stream, streaming at lamarzulli.net. I think we sell them for like $4 a pop, and you can rent them and watch them, and like you said, you binge watch them, and or you can buy the DVDs by going to lamarzulli.net, just lamarzulli.net, and follow the links, and we'll send you the hard copies. We just came out with number 8 in the series, Out of Place Artifacts. So that's a real hoot. I want to thank Josh Peck for putting the final touches on the editing on that. But I mean, this is what we do. We're on the trail, and I mean, when you look at Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo, you look at these places, America, Stonehenge. You start putting things together, and whose theory works? Well, the biblical theory works. The biblical prophetic narrative works for all this because it shows that all these sites are connected. My wife and I watched a film the other day, Aliens in Atlantis, and it was all about the serpent. Serpent energy, serpent sites, serpent. It's always about the serpent because that's
Especially these
who's
megalith sites.
always, always about the serpent.
And even you guys discovered, the owner did, but brought it to you guys' attention, and you guys were the first ones to film it. I thought that was really cool. But the actual site is encased by a serpent, biting
Yeah,
its own
yeah,
tail, no
yeah.
less.
It's the Ouroboros, and I was just there. In fact, the chamber where the serpent head is, when the spring equinox happens, the center stone inside, and that James, our guide, said, yes, it looks like an egg, and I just went, there you go, you know, there you go. It's always the serpent in the act of trying to eat the egg, trying to destroy the egg, which is when you go to the Great Serpent Mound. Let me see if I can show you that. When you go, and if you want the book, folks, lamarzulli.net, it's over, what is it, 500 pages? Yeah, 600 pages almost of full color photos. It's like 4 books in one. It's ridiculous. I mean, it really
And
is.
even if you can't read, it looks good on a coffee table.
Thank you, sir. Where is the
But I know a guy, and mine's signed.
There you go. Serpent Mound, 527. Indexes are good.
That's why I love using Logos Bible software. Man,
Yeah.
all your books are synced together.
So there you go. That's the Great Serpent Mound. The serpent is in the act of eating the egg. And by the way, folks, when you're there, there's a little path around it. You can't see what you're looking at till you fly a drone about 300 feet, 400 feet in the air, and then it comes into its fullness. But until you get that drone up in the air, you don't know what you're looking at. And of course, we show that in our film, the Mound Builders series. I mean, that's where we show it. So
Didn't you and Fritz even find a sacrificial table and standing stone that had been pushed and fell off the
yeah,
hill?
yeah, yeah, it was pushed off the hill. We want to raise that baby up and see if there's writing on it.
Oh,
See,
definitely.
that's real archaeology. What are we looking at here, guys? What are we looking at? So you need a crane. I mean, it's a whole deal. And of course, they won't let someone like me ever do it. They just won't. In fact, they wouldn't let Graham Hancock film there.
Yeah, I remember they run him off.
Yeah, run him off. And that's how the game is played. I mean, that is how the game is played. I'll give you an example. I don't have it. I can't show you this. Um, let me just see. Hold on. It might. I didn't think it did, but maybe it did. Hold on. Let's go Serpent Mound. What's going on? That's not it. Um, what I'm trying to show you something. I don't think I have it in here. No, it's not. No. Okay, so here it's in the film. It's in Mathematical Mysteries of the Mound Builders #2. So my wife Peggy and I and Fritz Zimmerman are at Graves Creek Mound, and we're filming there. And Graves Creek is in West Virginia. It's an ancient site. They did find giant skeletons there. So the one of the assistants who used to work at the museum left her job. So a new woman comes in and she's going through the files and she creates this little um, sort of a bulletin board on. It's got three sides which turns. It's out in the lobby on the way out to see the mound. So she puts out this picture. It's a lithograph from like Harper's Bazaar. My wife Peggy goes, "Oh my gosh, what's this?" It's a picture. It's a lithograph of the museum. It used to be a museum in Graves Creek Mound itself, and on display was a giant skeleton. How do we know this? Because there's a guy with a stovepipe hat on, and a woman with a hoop skirt that goes down to her ankles, and a little girl next to her. The man is standing in front of the skeleton, and this thing towers over him, and it's being displayed. So we report on that. Here's the picture.
Whoops.
This is what we found. And this archaeologist comes on and does a rebuttal. The problem is someone photoshopped his photograph. So they shrunk the skeleton. And some wise observer said, this is not the same picture that LA showed. And I offered a $1,500 reward for someone who could get us to the perpetrator who perpetrated this scam. And this archaeologist is lying through his teeth to the people, lying through his teeth. We took the photograph, and that thing was not supposed. I guarantee it.
Oh,
That
yeah.
that photograph was never supposed to see the light of day,
And I
but it
just
did.
talked to Fritz, and he said that they even had a sign up that said there
There
was
are no
never
giants.
any giants here. There was never giants found in this mound. He said, but lo and behold, he said, this new woman had these pictures brought up. He said, and she was like, whoops.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, there's a 9 footer. What do we do now? Damage control. You
Yeah.
know, all we need to do is find one. They didn't get them all, I guarantee it. There are probably First Nation people, especially in the Southwest, that could take us right now to a cave where they're just, giant skeletons just sitting there. I
Yeah.
guarantee it.
Which I
Guarantee it.
even think it's crazy how people look over Abraham Lincoln's quote at Niagara
Yeah,
Falls.
yeah,
He
yeah,
said that
yeah,
that race of extinct giants whose
right.
bones fill the mounds of America have stared at Niagara as our eyes do now. And it's like
Well,
that's why that they want to assign it to the Indian peoples, because then it's sacred land, and you're not allowed to disturb it or dig it up because they know what lies underneath it. Abraham Lincoln knew what lied underneath those mounds.
and that's exactly true. All I can tell you is this: that the powers that be keep everything away from the American people and the peoples of the world. Peoples of the world have a right to know what the truth is. That's all we're saying. You know, all we are saying is give truth a chance. What are you guys so afraid of that you've got to destroy people's lives or do nasty things or hide it or blow it up or whatever you do? It's just like the whole UFO thing. I mean, we've got 6 films out on UFOs. We're the only Christian ministry that's done this. This is the coming great deception. Everything dovetails together. What's in this book are the fingerprints of the supernatural, the fingerprints of a dragon. And what we show in our UFO films is that this is the singing chair. Hear it? Yeah. Makes a little fat
Well,
noise.
I was about to say, if you just let one rip, that's okay. I can edit
Yeah,
it out.
that's why I gotta show the folks that it's not me, it's the chair. But I mean, it's in the UFO phenomenon until 2017. Oh, it's swamp gas. Oh, it's you're seeing the planet Venus. Oh, you must be smoking something. You're wearing your tinfoil hat. Now we've got David Grush going before a select committee stating that we have biologics from crashed UFOs. I knew about this for decades. It's nothing new to me, but the church dithers, is asleep, doesn't understand the severity of where we are in the timeline. This thing is ramping up, baby, in ways that I've never seen.
You want to
So,
tell them what you told us at the conference? Because I know you said that it was kind of top secret, but you divulged it to us. Your findings out in the desert, or is that still
um,
under a hat?
that's still under. Let me put it this way: number 7, the film I'm working on, right over there in the edit booth, is on Roswell, and we went out to the Roswell crash site, and we found something. That's all I'll tell you. But that film will be out. There's Roswell 1 and Roswell 2. There's 2 films on Roswell. And then we wrap it up with number 9, which is What is the Truth? What are we looking at? What is the truth? And I hope to get this Roswell one done sooner than later.
Awesome. Well, I know we're getting close to time for you to go, LA. Once again, just give us a plug and where we find your stuff, just for those that weren't paying attention.
Yeah, and please, when you buy stuff from us, you keep us doing what we're doing. This isn't free. We've got some people that donate money to us, and thank God that they do. It keeps us in the field. But lamarzulli.net, that is the website. And if you want to just stream everything we've been talking about, there are 28 films on our streaming site. I'm the host of all of them. 28 films. I directed and produced and co-produced many of them. So in my business partner, my new business partner, Gil Zimmerman, and I have worked on, I think it's like 5 films together and more coming out. He's a great guy, and he's our director of cinematography. Gil worked at Disney and DreamWorks for 30 years between the two. He's a real deal, and we're honored to have him part of our team. He's my business partner, and then James Peterson is our sound guy out in the field, and also um, he keeps us on our toes and keeps us laughing. So lamarzulli.net, streaming at lamarzulli.net. If you just want to go in there, binge watch, and there's so much information, it'll blow your mind. Streaming at lamarzulli.net. Justin, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you, man. It's always just a enlightening conversation.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. Glory to the King.
Amen.